Okay, so over the last 2 days, I have been watching all of the DCEU movies. These are the movies in the DC Cinematic Universe. And as I was watching them, I realized that, man, I really like a lot of these more than I thought I did. And so I thought I would make like a ranking video to see, kind of if my thoughts on the movies had changed at all, if I would rearrange some of my previous rankings. This is something that I have not done before, and kind of explain my thoughts on why I would rank these movies into these categories. As I was ranking them, I decided that I really couldn't rank them effectively 1 to 7. It's very difficult, and I did do that, but it didn't do the numbers justice on quite how I felt about these particular movies. So what I decided to do instead was to rank them into three tiers, or three levels. Okay, so the first level being the movies that I absolutely loved, that I don't see a whole lot of problems with, that had me from start to finish watching the movie saying, oh my gosh, this movie's awesome. Tier 2 are movies that I really do enjoy. I think there's a lot going for them, and I'm excited to see where they take those characters next. And then Tier 3, those are the movies that I believe are the weakest. These are the movies that DC did not do a great job with, even though those movies might have some really positive moments. Overall, the movies are kind of a mess. And so again, I decided to rank them into those three tiers. This is tier 3, the movies that I thought had a lot of work to do. And starting with the worst, in tier 3, I would have to say it's Suicide Squad. Now, as a whole, Suicide Squad did not have a whole lot going for it. The plot was very convoluted. Some of the characters were just done really terribly. And so that's kind of why I ranked it in the bottom level. Now, to get a little bit more in detail, characters like the Joker, obviously, Enchantress, Killer Croc, right? Different characters like that I just could not connect with. Now, the movie did have a few things going for it, such as Will Smith's Deadshot and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, right? Two very good characters. The acting was great. The connection between the two was great. And even Amanda Waller, she was fantastic as well. But again, the plot points, the characters, the villain didn't have any clear motivations. It was just very convoluted, the whole plot. And to be honest, I mean, yes, there were a few wow moments, but overall, not a whole lot. So moving our way up to number 6. Number 6 I would have to rank here is Justice League. Now, obviously, being the Justice League, I was very excited to see all of the characters come together, right? Come together to fight Steppenwolf. But unfortunately, the movie did not get pieced together as well as it could have. Well, really, Justice League plays off as two separate movies. Partly Zack Snyder's movie and partly Joss Whedon's movie, and it never really comes together all the way that you would hope. There are a few positives in Justice League, including obviously the introduction to Aquaman, as well as the introduction to Cyborg. I thought both of those characters are very exciting. And they could offer a whole lot to this DCEU. Ray Fisher, especially the actor who plays Cyborg, I really want to see more of him. There is a campaign going on right now. There's like a Kickstarter, a lot of money being raised to try to get Warner Brothers to release the Snyder Cut, his version of the movie, to see if it would be any better. I am under the impression, based on how much I do like Zack Snyder's other films, that it probably would be a whole lot better. So here's hoping that DC does the right thing and eventually, right, hashtag releases the Snyder Cut. Tier 2, there are 2 more movies. And here I ranked more of the recent DC entries. So first, ranked number 5 that I have is Aquaman. Now, watching Aquaman in theaters was one of the coolest movie experiences I've ever had. I saw it in IMAX, and I was just blown away. Visually, the movie was beautiful. I loved every second watching that movie. Now, I rewatched it on my tiny little television here, and obviously it lost some of its glow. I do enjoy Aquaman greatly still. But there are a few things that I'm just like, not as great as before. And no, I'm not going to say Black Manta. I thought Black Manta was awesome. I know he was underutilized in the movie. He definitely could have been used more, but the actor that portrayed him, I could clearly see his motivations. Obviously, right? Aquaman killed his dad, and like, of course, this guy's gonna be mad. What do you think? So people complaining about Black Manta, I don't understand you. And then also, I really did like Patrick Wilson as King Orm as well. Clear motivations, wanted to become the Ocean Master. So I thought Aquaman did a great job with the villains. The story was a little bounce around, move around, kind of difficult to follow at different times because there are so many new characters being introduced. A lot of different, obviously, realms under the sea and new people, new species being introduced. So again, a little bit difficult to follow all the way through. But it kind of plays off almost like an Indiana Jones film, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the adventure aspect of it. But I ranked it 5 below the next one. So coming in number 4, okay, and this is also still part of tier 2, I have Shazam. I love Shazam. I love the actor. Zachary Levi is perfect to play this character of older Billy Batson. Seeing the movie, I was floored. I loved every moment of it. I thought it was hilarious. I love seeing like a little kid inside of a big man's body, like how it would be to be a superhero. I can only imagine myself being a 14-year-old boy and then being able to say the word Shazam, and then becoming a superhero and being like, what the heck? Like, this is so cool. Again, I love that aspect of Shazam. I like the story. I thought the villains were great, right, with the 7 deadly sins and Dr. Savannah. I guess the only complaint that I really do have about Shazam, and because it is one of Warner Brothers and DC's lower budgeted films, there's a few production values that aren't done so well. Obviously, the costumes look a little bit cheesy at points. Some of the special effects, practical effects aren't as great as some of the other movies. And again, that's because they decided to spend less money on this movie because he is a lower tier superhero. Not as many people know him. He's not as followed as say, Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman. So it kind of slots into this category. But I do have them ranked very high. I do have Shazam ranked very high in tier 2. And it's almost a tier 1 movie. And it would be if not for the production. Finally, coming into tier 1, these are the 3 movies that I think are the absolute best. And you can kind of guess which 3 I'm on to now. But within these 3, I found it very difficult to rank them 1, 2, and 3. And again, I think based on how many times I rewatch them, they will kind of flip between spot 1, spot 2, and spot 3. But we'll see. As of right now, based on the rewatches, this is how I have them ranked. So coming in number 3 is Wonder Woman. Now, I love this movie. The first time that I saw it in theaters, I thought it was really well done. And I thought they did a great job explaining the mythology as well. And one of the things, obviously, because I am a history teacher, I love the tie-ins to World War I. As I was watching it, I was like, hey, I might be able to show this clip in a history class one of these days. Especially that scene where she crosses no man's land. I thought it was just really well done, really, really, really cool. The villain in this one, obviously, it's kind of like a gotcha, right? This whole movie, you think that it's these 2 individuals, but then in reality, it ends up actually being Ares, which again plays off as quite the surprise. And the first time I did have some complaints about Ares. I was disappointed that he didn't show up earlier in the movie. But this time, watching it and hearing him explain his plan and his reasoning, right? He believed that humans were bad, and so he wasn't trying to exterminate them. He was allowing them to do it on their own. And I thought that was a very smart villain thing to do. And so I appreciated the direction that David Hewells took with the character of Ares. Obviously, Gal Gadot, she's perfect as Wonder Woman. I can't really picture anybody else being in that role. She does a tremendous job. Chris Pine's great in the movie, as well as the rest of the supporting cast. So as a whole, I really, 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 really enjoy Wonder Woman. Coming in at number 2 This one, usually, and on my superhero movie rankings, I have it ranked number one as my favorite. But after the rewatches, I have to bump it down to number two because I have a new number one favorite. But number two is Man of Steel. I've always loved Man of Steel. I saw it. It was one of the first movies that I saw on a date with my wife years ago, back in 2013. I think it was the first movie that we saw on a date together. So it's always had a special place in my heart. But I've always loved the story. I've always loved the score. Michael Shannon as General Zod is so good. His motivations are very clear. He wants to establish a new Krypton, right? He wants to take care of Krypton. And they do such a good job explaining why he wants to do that. He's the general. His job on Krypton was to protect the people of Krypton, and he does such a great job explaining that. Now, the common complaint with Man of Steel is, oh, it's a destruction. There's too much destruction in a superhero movie. Here's the thing. DC obviously took a little bit different of a route than the Marvel movies. They took a darker route. And that's one of the things that you kind of have to understand. You don't have to love it. I do. I love that they took the darker route. And they show some of the destruction that these superheroes and villains are capable of. Superman, he's just discovering his powers. He's just kind of coming into who he is, what he's all about. Okay, and so when Zod takes the battle to Metropolis, Clark, Superman, only knows to fight him there. And so, yes, obviously there's a lot of destruction, a lot of innocent people die, and it's unfortunate. But, again, it's not ideal for the superhero to say, oh, we got to clear everybody out of the city first, right? Zod is just as powerful as Superman. He has a say, and he's not going to say, no, we have to move everybody out. He's going to say, let's fight now. He's the villain, right? He's going to say, let's fight now, let's fight here. And Superman's got to take him out. People complained about the violence of Superman killing Zod. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have shown him breaking his neck. You could have done it off screen. But it's important that Superman kills Zod for the next movie, right? And also the destruction plays in so well to the next movie as well. They just do a great job explaining all of the tie-ins. All right, and so for the final movie, number one on my list, after significant rewatches, give me 1 second, I need a drink. I ranked number one, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, it is not the theatrical cut, and this is very important to note. I watched the Ultimate Edition, which has another about 30 to 40 minutes worth of footage. And that 30 and 40 minutes of footage makes the movie completely different. I will say that the theatrical cut has a lot of convolution. It's confusing. It skips around a lot, and some of the plot points don't make sense. But the director's cut does a great job explaining things and making you understand, okay, this was the motivation. This is why this happened. Okay, they do a great job stepping things through. Now, one of the things that I absolutely loved about Batman vs. Superman, and this is going to cause maybe a little bit of controversy with my superhero friends, I loved Jesse Eisenberg in this movie as Lex Luthor. Okay. Now, I know he's not necessarily comic accurate Lex Luthor, right? He's got a long, flowing head of hair very early on, and he doesn't become bald until the end, right? That's one thing that people complain about. He's a little whiny, right? Lex Luthor doesn't typically come off as that. Lex Luthor's a very powerful individual. So to see Lex portrayed this way was very confusing and very odd for some. But he is an intellectual mastermind. Okay? You don't see all of his planning details, but Jesse Eisenberg plays Lex as if he is a star of Silicon Valley. So he's a very smart individual that can piece things together and make his plan work. His motivations are so clear as far as wanting to take down this godlike figure in Superman. And I love his moment when he's standing on top of the LexCorp building and he's speaking with Superman, and he uses some biblical references as to devils in the sky and different things. And I just thought Jesse Eisenberg nailed this. Now, there are times where he comes off as a little kooky. People say, oh, that's more like Joker, or that's more like Mad Hatter. That's not Lex Luthor. I understand that. But if you watch the movie and you understand exactly that Lex Luthor is a smart individual, it comes off a lot differently. And again, so I love Jesse Eisenberg's performance. I thought it was great. A lot of people, again, don't necessarily agree with me on that, and that's fine. But I loved it. I don't mind Martha as well. Martha, right? People complained about that. I thought it was a clever little tie-in. Obviously, Bruce's murdered mother is named Martha, and Clark's mother is also named Mother, or is Martha, right? So it ties in well. Now, it is a little weird to end their whole fight just on the word Martha, or their mother's name. I understand that, but all in all, I love Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. I just think it's beautiful. It's 3 hours of joy. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Normally during these marathons, I get up and go to the bathroom. I get up and get snacks or something. With Dawn of Justice, I literally stayed on the couch for 3 hours, did not budge, because I was so invested into the movie. So Lex is a great villain. They bring in Doomsday, which is very exciting. Now, Doomsday doesn't look as well as he possibly could have, but all in all, again, I think utilizing those two characters, Batman and Superman, introducing Wonder Woman into the DCEU in this movie, I just think they did a great job, and to me, it's perfect. I really love Batman versus Superman, and so as of now, it takes the number one spot on my list. So that is my ranking of the 7 DCEU movies. Again, controversial perhaps, but that's how I see it. Hopefully I was able to convince you, especially with Batman vs. Superman, to give it another shot. Do not watch the theatrical version, okay? If you rent the movie, if you buy the movie, make sure you buy the Ultimate Edition. It is so good. Yes, it's 3 hours, so you're going to have to take a chunk out of your day to watch it, but it is a great movie. Jesse Eisenberg, once again, does a fantastic job. Ben Affleck, best Batman in the world. And just seeing all three characters, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, come together to fight Doomsday is something special. Okay? So, again, watch Batman vs. Superman. Watch all of the DCEU movies. Maybe not Suicide Squad or Justice League until Justice League, the Snyder Cut, comes out. I'm waiting, and I am so excited for the Snyder Cut. #release the Snyder Cut.